Hi, and welcome to Psych 111. This is the first of 3 videos that we'll be looking at together to get you familiar with the course and how it's going to work, and hopefully answer the questions that I'm sure many of you have at this point. So this video is about our syllabus, and so it's going to go over course requirements, how you'll earn your grade, and other information that you're going to find on your syllabus. And I know probably many of you have already accessed the syllabus because it's been available for a little while now prior to the start of the course. This first page, oh, and I should say, I've separated out all of the college policy college policies into a separate document. And so you'll find that on the same page as the syllabus, and that's all of the things that are not unique to our course, but that all students at the college need to know. This document we're going to look at are just the things unique to our course, with the exception of this COVID information that we need to include on all of our syllabi, but is not really relevant for us since we won't be seeing each other in person. And so, when we start looking at the syllabus, the first thing that's probably important to look at on this first page is how to contact me. The absolute easiest way to get in touch with me is by email. I check my email frequently. It is my intention to always reply to emails within 24 hours, especially Monday to Friday. Can't always guarantee that on the weekend, but often that'll be the case. If you don't hear back from me in response to your email within 24 hours, especially Monday to Friday, feel free to email me again. Say, hey, I'm not sure if you saw my email, because that often means that I have lost track of it, that it never got to me, that I never saw it, and a prompt will be useful. Okay. You can call me. The phone number is listed. That voicemail will actually show up in my email, but then we play phone tag, which is not particularly useful. So email is definitely the better way. I am on campus on Mondays and Tuesdays. I teach on-ground classes on those days, and I have office hours on those days. At this point, because of COVID, office hours are by appointment during those times. So, at least kind of an hour before you want to meet with me, if you want to meet with me at 10:30 on a Monday, by 9:30, let me know so that I can be ready for you. I imagine most of our appointments would be virtual. And we can do video conferencing, and the link is right there, my WebEx personal room, and that's how we'll meet. And so make sure you download WebEx onto whatever devices you use so that you have that handy. And obviously I'm available at other times, especially for virtual appointments. So if you can't meet on the times I have listed here, reach out to me and see what else I might have available. It's always useful when you do that to let me know what times you might be looking for, what days or roughly what times might work for you. Okay. And so you have your course description, the textbook. I sent out an earlier email for you that explained that we would be using an OpenStax free textbook. So I've provided a free PDF. I'm hoping most of you have already downloaded that and accessed it, because it's been available again for a while, and I had sent out notification about that. There is a link here if you really want a hard copy, and for many people that is an easier way to read a textbook. It's about $39, I think. It may be the same in our bookstore, but it definitely is the same to order it through this link. It's $39. Or roughly. And so if you want a hard copy, you can get one that way. So our learning outcomes, you'll see those again on Blackboard for each of our chapters, specific to the chapter we're in. They are a good way of checking yourself. And so looking at those on Blackboard, I think, is more useful since they'll be relevant to the work you're doing in that moment. But they do tell you what you're going to need to be able to know or do, and I'm leaning on those when I'm making up exams. So it is a good for kind of first glance at that. Our grading system, this is really the same as the grading system at the whole college, where in terms of how you translate numbers to letters. The only difference here is that you and I are going to be working on a 1,000-point scale, not a 100-point scale. And so I've just modified this grade scale, the second column in there, to reflect that we'll be working on 1,000 points. And so your final course grade will be calculated. If you have 915 points, you'll have an A-. And we'll talk about that point system next. So as I just said, right, we have a 1,000-point system, and I like my 1,000-point system. I use it in all of my courses, and I like it for a couple of different reasons. The first is I think it's really transparent. that you're not getting letter grades from me throughout the semester and then having to kind of do fancy math to figure out where you are with your grade. You can always see where you are relative to the grade you want. So if you know you want an A, for example, right, if we go back and look at that, because if you know you want an A, you have to get at least 930 points, which allows you to do very simple math throughout the semester. If you lose 10 points on an assignment and you lose another 10 points on an exam, right, you know you're at most at 980 at that point. And so it tells you kind of how close you are to your goals. And having goals for your grade, something I would recommend, like knowing now, how many points am I aiming for? Because then it helps you make choices about what effort you might be putting into assignments, specific assignments, or even if you have to choose between whether to spend your time on this class or another class, it lets you know what the kind of immediate consequence of that will be in terms of how likely you are then to get to your goal. So let's talk about how you'll earn your grade, how you'll get to 1,000 points. There will be 4 exams across the semester. We will cover 8 chapters, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. You will have an exam after every 2 chapters. So each exam will be based on the content for 2 chapters. There's no cumulative midterm or final, just the 4 exams. They're 100 points each, and that comes to 400 points over 4 exams. So about 40% of your grade are exams, or 400 out of 1,000 points are exams. We'll talk about the exams more as we get closer, but the exams are obviously online exams since our whole course is online. They are made up of 30 multiple choice questions and then 10 open-ended kind of short essays, like paragraph long essays. And there's study guides already available, and some of you probably have seen those already because they're on the main course page. So the study guide's available, and my recommendation is actually that you get the study guide for the first exam downloaded or printed now as you're reading the textbook, as you're watching lecture videos. You can see what I'm telling you I'm going to emphasize. In addition to the exams, there are 2 short written papers. The first one of these we'll actually talk about in detail in the last video here in this orientation folder. And so we won't talk about it here, but it is worth 130 points. And then the second paper is worth 150 points. You will have an opportunity to redo that second paper for a better grade if you choose, and we'll look at those dates on the syllabus as well, and we'll look at the calendar in a few minutes. You do have online quizzes, which are different from the exams. Online quizzes are essentially reading quizzes. You have one of those for each chapter, and they're due by Thursday after the chapter, I should say. I don't know why it says module here, becomes available. And they can be found within each chapter. In the second video, we'll look at how Blackboard is set up and how you'll find things. And so we'll take a look at an example of finding those quizzes. So there'll be 8 quizzes because we have 8 chapters. So that's 80 possible points. They're 10 points each. The thing about the quizzes is that they are meant to ensure that you're reading and also to make sure you're mastering the material so that you can actually take those quizzes as many times as you want up until the due date. And Blackboard will simply report to me the highest grade you earned. So it's a good way of learning the material, not just taking a test and finding out you didn't know it, right? If you didn't know it, you go back, you redo the questions. You'll be able to get feedback on which questions you had right and wrong, so it won't be a guessing game. You'll be able to focus to keep your answers the same where they were right, and then to change them according to what you look up and the ones that were wrong. And then you'll also have 2 required discussions for each chapter. These are group discussions, whole class discussions, and there's a grading rubric for those. One of those will be in response to a prompt that I put up. So for the first chapter, there'll be prompts for you to choose a research question and tell me how you would study it using experimental method, right? That's the prompt. And so you'll have to do that, and then also reply to classmates. And when we look at Blackboard, we'll look at the dates for those a little bit more closely. And then the second discussion forum is a muddiest points discussion, and that is a place where you need to post a question about our material that we're focusing on at that point, so that chapter's material. And so that can be a question about something you don't understand well. It could be a question about something you think you understand, but you're not sure. It could also be something that you understand, but really want to expand your knowledge of. You want to go beyond what was offered to you. But you have to post a question, and then you have to reply to classmates to offer answers to those questions using course material. Okay, you don't have to reference course material, but you need to rely on course material for those answers. So that gets us to 1,000 altogether. And in addition to that, the baseline 1,000 points, there will be extra credit opportunities in many of the chapters. That's a great way if you've missed a quiz to make up those answers, or if you missed a due date for a discussion to make up some of those points, so that there's no makeups for the quizzes or the discussions. And so there are these extra credit opportunities which allow you to make up points if you'd like to do that, or if you've just performed poorly on something and you want to balance your grade in that way. Do read my message, take a look at that, but let's look together at the calendar. And many of you have already done this, I'm sure. But we're in the orientation. We opened on Thursday, September 9th, and then we're in orientation, letting you get used to the course until the 12th, which is a Sunday. All of our due dates will always be Thursdays and Sundays. And so you should be doing work at other times. You should be on the course on other days, but Thursdays and Sundays, you always have work due. And so that's something to keep in mind. You can get work done before Thursday. So if you happen to work on Thursday, get it done Wednesday. But you have until then. And then our first chapter opens on Monday the 13th. And all of our chapters after that will open on a Monday and close on a Sunday. The first 4 chapters, so thinking critically about psychological science, biopsychology, states of consciousness, and learning, all of those are open for 2 weeks, which is what my normal not late start courses have most chapters open for 2 weeks. So we're going to start at that pace, let you get your feet under you. Those chapters are open for 2 weeks, which means you have work due the first, so it opens on the 13th on Monday, and then that Thursday, which is 14th, 15th, the 16th, you have a quiz due. And then that following Sunday, you have discussion posts due. And then on Thursday and Sunday of the second week, you have more work to do on your discussions. Those will be spelled out on Blackboard for each chapter. So, and I will also send out reminders, especially at the beginning of our course. And then you can, so you can see what the rhythm is. The second half of the course, and so the last 4 chapters starting in November, those are only open for 1 week each. And that's because we're a late start. We simply have fewer weeks to deal with. And so those 1 week chapters, you'll have a quiz and first discussion post due on Thursday, and then all of your discussion replies due on Sunday, all in the same week. So that is something to plan ahead a little bit for. And you could always get ahead by doing textbook reading ahead of time if you're worried about time during the week. And you'll see listed on here are the due dates for papers. As we have said, we'll talk about paper 1 more. You'll see that your second paper is due right before Thanksgiving, and then you have an optional redo of that the last week of class. So the fact that we're a late start doesn't change our end date. We still end at the same time as all the other classes. So hopefully this gives you a nice overview of what you'll be doing. And you and I will see each other again in the next video where we're going to look at Blackboard together. Okay.